Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome back to Blu-Roy Movies. How are we all doing? Hope we're all doing all right. Yeah, it's Friday on time of recording. Probably upload this over the weekend. Not sure what day yet. Storm Claudia's raging away outside. God, it's bloody horrible out there. So I thought I'd get recorded today. Stay in the warm, stay in the dry. I've only got to go as far as the co-op, get something for his tea tonight. So won't be going very far. So yeah, this week 9 titles to talk about. Some good, some bad, some indifferent. So let's get on with it. Right, we kicked off the week with a bit of a bang, to be honest. Blithe Spirit from 1945, directed by David Lean, starring Rex Harrison, Constance Cummins, Kay Hammond, and Margaret Rutherford. And what a good film this. I'll tell you what, was there ever, or has there ever been, a more consistent British director than David Lean? Everything I've seen, really, really good. Even it's not so larger lights like Breaking the Sound Barrier, I still enjoyed it. I mean, even Hitchcock, who I love Hitchcock, he had one or two misfires for me, but I can't think of a David Lean film that I didn't like. Just brilliant director. And Blithe Spirit, no exception. This was the first time watched for myself. It's all about Rex Harrison and his wife Constance Cummins. They invite over Margaret Rutherford, and she's a medium, so-called, though they're very sceptical about the whole thing. Yeah, Rex Harrison, he's an author, and he's writing on a book on the subject of the occult, so is invited Margaret Rutherford over to hold a seance to basically get some ideas for his book, like not thinking anything's going to happen, and they're struggling to keep straight faces and that. But lo and behold, Margaret Rutherford manages to bring back the ghost of Rex Harrison's dead wife, played by Kay Hammond, and yeah, all hilarity kicks off from there. It's only Harrison that can see her. And he keeps talking to her, and this is upsetting his previous wife. Yeah, brilliant screwball stuff, because she thinks he's talking to her half the time and is getting into trouble. And I'm going to spoil it. So the ghost of the dead wife is now planning to kill Rex Harrison so he can bring him back to the ghost world so they can live out eternity together. So she cuts the brakes on the car. You don't get many ghosts doing that, so it's quite ridiculous. But instead of Rex Harrison taking the car, the present wife takes it and kills herself, and then he's got two ghosts to contend to. Yeah, really, really good screwball comedy. Well made, well written. The dialogue's fantastic, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. In blushing technical, whatever blushing technicolor is, but yeah, it did look nice, it did look colourful, and on the strength of how good that was, I've picked up a copy of this, the latest iteration of the story. It's got Dan Stevens, Leslie Mann, Isla Fisher, and Judi Dench as the medium figure. I know it's not going to be as good as that, but I'm curious to see how it holds up. Yeah, great way to start the week off. That was Blithe Spirit. Thoroughly enjoyed that. After that, I followed it up with the first Lara Croft Tomb Raider film. This was from 2001, directed by Simon West, starring obviously Angelina Jolie, Ian Glenn, who I know most from Game of Thrones, Daniel Craig, Noah Taylor, John Voight, Leslie Phillips, Ding Dong. So quite a decent cast. And the reason I watched this, I watched Skyfire last week from Simon West also. And looking on his filmography, I realised he'd made a lot of fluff, but all fluff that I seemed to enjoy. So I thought I'd just give Tomb Raider another watch, and yeah, really liked it again. It's not going to win any BAFTAs or Oscars or anything like that, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. This is about Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, Jolie's character, obviously, and She's the daughter of this lord who lived in a big mansion, who was also a sort of Tomb Raider type figure, and he was missing, presumed dead, when he was trying to get these objects together. And years later, it turns around that Jolie finds out that these objects are actually about, and she goes out to find them. Yeah, she's got to find like two halves of a tablet type thing and get them together, and then she can control time. But as in all these sort of like archaeological films, sort of like the mummies and the Indiana Jones and that, she's not the only person looking for it, because the bad guys are too, played by Ian Glenn and Daniel Craig. And just a good adventure that I really enjoyed. Like I say, it's all fluff, but for me, it's good fluff. CGI maybe not the best that you'll see these days, but it's passable. I think Jolie probably made to play Tomb Raider. I've never played the game or anything like that, but I just think she's the essence of the character, and pretty good running around in little vest tops too. Yeah, and tell you what, Daniel Craig, I watched him in this and The Invasion last week, and I think outside of Bond is a pretty terrible actor. He's very wooden in this and very wooden in The Invasion too. He had a terrible American accent, and actually Jolie's English accent isn't the best, but it's passable. Yeah, Tomb Raider. Let me know any more fans of this, because I think it's an alright little action film. Yeah, pretty good stuff. And we followed that one up with Flightplan from the year 2005, directed by Robert Schwenke, starring Jodie Foster, Peter Sarsgaard, and Sean Bean, nonetheless. Rewatched for myself, and a film I really like, actually. This is a decent film. A conspiracy type thriller, I think you'd label it. This is about Jodie Foster. She has been in Germany, I think it was, with her husband, and her husband has supposedly committed suicide by jumping off this building and massive brain trauma, and she has to fly the body back to the United States with her little girl in tow, who's about 5 or 6, I think, something like that. So they board the aeroplane, the body gets loaded in the cargo hold, and they settle down for the flight, her and her daughter. She wakes up and the daughter's missing. This means a mad scurry around the plane trying to find the daughter. When the staff of the aeroplane check the manifest, they claim that the daughter was never on board, and even convince Jodie Foster that her daughter had indeed died at the same time as the husband, and it was her own psychological state that wouldn't allow her to believe that the daughter was also dead. And for a while, you're almost believing it that that's what happened, but no, it wasn't. It turns into a not a hostage situation, a blackmailing situation, because Foster's character, she's works for the airline company and knows this airplane back to front. Great big bloody airplane it is, with loads of stairs and bars and discos and restaurants and everything like that. Yeah, so Jodie knows this plane inside out. So the guy who is actually behind it all has made it look that she is trying to not hijack the plane, but just trying to threaten to blow up the plane for money. Yeah, real decent thriller. For once, Sean Bean isn't the bad guy. Sean Bean is actually the captain of the airplane, and made a jolly good airplane captain. I think I could imagine him doing that in real life. Yeah, good conspiracy thriller. I think it's out of print now, this Blu-ray, but well worth picking it up if you got it, if you can, and you haven't seen it. Yeah, quite enjoy Flight Plan. It's all right. And the next taxi off the rank was Sweet Hereafter from 1997. I thought it was later than that, actually. I was quite surprised when I see it was a 90s film. Directed by Atom Egoyan. It stars Ian Holmes, Sarah Polley, Tom McCamus, and Bruce Greenwood. A decent film, this. I quite enjoyed it. I'd only seen one Atom Egoyan film before, and that was Remember, which I really, really liked, and could do getting a copy of that because that's a brilliant film. But The Sweet Hereafter, no, I hadn't seen, and I knew Tim from Tim's Movie Waffle had been talking about this director, so when I asked him, it was this film he had indeed been talking about. Now, it's set in Canada in the snow, so I could imagine it was in Tim did a video about weather set in cold weather, so I think it's probably in that video. I must go back and have a look, see what he thought about it. Yeah, but The Sweet Hereafter, about this small community, as I say, in a real snowbound part of Canada. But I think a lot of Canada's like that. And there'd been an accident with this school bus had crashed and plummeted into a frozen lake, and a lot of the kids had been killed. The driver had been injured, and a lot of it serious injuries had occurred from it. And Ian Holm, he's this prosecution lawyer who arrives at this town and wants to basically go into bat, if you like, for the residents of this town and try and get some compensation for what happened to them. He argues that where there's an accident, it's never an accident. There's always some blame to be apportioned somewhere. Half of the town, they're up for it. They want to pursue some sort of compensation. The other half of the town, it doesn't sit very well for them. That they don't feel it's the right thing to do, that it was an accident and they should let it lie in bed. It's going to be a long drawn out court case that maybe it should be not forgotten about, but not dragged up all over again, I suppose. And so it's that sort of balance. Should they go ahead with the court case, or shouldn't they? It's told, it's very well made, very well acted and scripted, and it's told in sort of non-linear fashion, flashbacks and that. And I found that a bit, not confusing, but it made me think as to what timeline we're on a few times. The ending, I don't know whether I like the ending so much. It didn't go the way maybe I'd have liked it to have gone. So, Tim, if you're watching, what did you think of the ending? But yeah, good, thoughtful, insightful film that will stay in the collection, and I could see myself going back to actually in the future. Yeah, very good director. The two films I've seen before, this one and not Remember's brilliant. If you get a chance, watch that. I need to discover now some more of this guy's films. Yeah, The Sweet Hereafter. Up next, Somewhere in Time, from 1980, directed by Jeanette Swark, starring Christopher Lee, Jane Seymour, Christopher Plummer, Teresa Wright, who I like from Shadow of Doubt. I thought she was brilliant in that film. Quite a good few years before this one. Yes, Somewhere in Time. Now, this might upset a few people because I know this is quite highly regarded, but I didn't get on with this. I thought it was awful. Yeah, it just not for me. These types of films. This is all about Christopher Reeve's character. He is a playwright and doing all right, not doing too bad. He's just got a play published and having a little soiree to celebrate this. And this old lady approaches him that he's never seen before in his life. Well, maybe not. And hands him this pocket watch and says, "Come back to me," and like very mysterious, then walks off again. Of course, this leaves Christopher bemused. A few years later in life, I think 8 years later, he's split up with his current girlfriend and going out for a drive and just get away from things. He books into this hotel. On having a look round the hotel, he sees this photograph, this olden photograph of this beautiful lady who's actually Jane Seymour, and he's absolutely captivated with this stunning image of this woman and this photograph, and goes about trying to find more about the photo. At the local library, when he finds out that she used to be a very well-known stage actress, it's like 1912 she was a stage actress, and he finds out her name and digs into her and sees her last ever photograph taken, and lo and behold, it's this old lady that gave him the pocket watch. Confused? You will be. What program was that used to be on? Confused? You will be. He then now this is where it starts to lose me. He then decides to time travel back to 1912 so he can meet this woman in her prime when she was a young woman. And his method of time travel is laying on a bed and thinking hard about time travelling. Yep, I shit you not. That is how he time travelled. That is how ridiculous this film is. He then meets up with her and comes off quite stalkerish as he tries to persuade Jane Seymour's character to be her latest beau to court him. And then it just turns into sentimental crap, basically. It took some getting through it. It took some believing, and it took some stomach not to vomit, to be honest. Just not my type of thing. A terrible, terrible film, in my opinion. And I know it's got fans, so I'll probably get some hate, but hey-oh, that's the way it goes, somewhere in time. Next up for myself, The Collector from 1965, directed by the wonderful William Wyler, starring Terence Stamp, the late Samantha Eager, who we lost quite recently, and apparently there was a fleeting part for Kenneth Moore, but I must have missed that, so if anybody knows about that, answers on a postcard, please. Yeah, The Collector, and what a good film this was. I heard quite a few people talk about this recently, Neil and Stuart. They really enjoyed it, so just had the sale and I added it into the collection. Yeah, fantastic stuff. All about Terence Stamp's character. He's a loner type character working in a bank, and the co-workers ridicule him. He collects butterflies and they take the mickey out of him for doing that, just basically give him a hard time. One day he wins the pools. For younger viewers, Google the pools. You'll find out what that means. And he buys himself like a remote country house where he won't be bothered by anybody. He takes a shine to Samantha Egger's character and follows around town in his van. And one day, chloroform to the mouth. Does chloroform actually work like it does in the films? Not that I'm attempting to do it, but you see him in the films, the chloroform on a rag and asleep. Does that actually work? Puts her in the back of the van and takes her back to his remote country house and basically keeps her captive and says we'll pretty much release her when she befriends him and falls in love with him, which could be a long time. In the end, they settle for that she's going to be there for 28 days and then she will release him. Yeah, good talk, thriller, hostage situation, brilliantly acted by both Stamp and Egger. I mean, Stamp in particular I thought was fantastic. Even though he'd done this horrible thing at times, he could be quite charming, and he actually quite liked his character at times. There's one situation, now I'm going to spoil this, so if you want to watch it and not know anything about it, skip ahead, but there's this one time he's taken Egger's character for a bath, and the next door neighbour, I say next door neighbour, is a remote place, I suppose, like he's a field over or whatever. He knocks on the door and is talking to Stamp's character while Egger's character is like tied up in the bathroom, and she manages to get the taps running with her toes and start a flood that starts cascading this, and the neighbour notices. And I was actually rooting that Stamp's character wouldn't get caught. Whether that says something that Stamp's was really good at portraying this hostage taker who was actually quite charming at times, or maybe that's something that's more about me, I don't know, which was quite worrying. Yeah, really good tense hostage situation. Fantastic British film, really well made, as it would be by William Wyler. Really well acted by the both. Yeah, recommend anybody to add that to their collection and give it a watch. The Collector. Up next from 2003, Underworld, directed by Len Wiseman, starring Kate Beckinsale, obviously as Selena, Scott Speedman, Michael Sheen, Bill Nighy, Sophia Myles, and yeah, you know what? I quite like this series of films. I like the Underworld films. I've said it before on the channel. I don't believe in any such thing as a guilty pleasure. You like what you like and you shouldn't feel guilty for it, but these just hit a chord with me. They're good popcorn, sort of fantasy. I wouldn't say horror, fantasy horror. They're not scary at all. They're just good fun. All about for 1,000 years, there's this been raging on Earth a war between the Lycans, which are werewolves, and the vampires. Personally, I'd like to be a vampire because they live in a big mansion and they're well dressed and look like they're having a good time in life or afterlife. The werewolves live down a dirty hole and eat scraps, and yeah, I don't fancy that at all. You're made to believe that the vampires are the sort of superior race, the moral high ground, but there's actually much more to it, where actually like the werewolves who were once the slaves of the vampires and served the vampires were probably the more downtrodden race and didn't have any breaks. Yeah, good stuff as you delve into the folklore of everything, how it all came about, how the war started, and the war carries on. How the weapons have evolved over the 1,000 years. Like the werewolves shoot guns with ultraviolet light tips, so they're going to kill the vampires, and vice versa. The vampires have got guns with liquid metal bullets to kill the werewolves. Yeah, good stuff. Quite enjoy this, and I might actually rerun through the whole series now because it's got me in the mood for some more Underworld, and you can't beat a bit of Kate Beckinsale in black leather. Next up was a first time watcher, this one actually, THX 1138 from 1971, and George Lucas's first film, starring Robert Duvall, Donald Pleasance and Maggie McComey. Yeah, really enjoyed this actually. I can't believe it's taken me all these years to get round to. It's a lot to take in. There's a lot to think about, and think I will probably benefit of some more viewings of it because I'm not sure I took it all in. There's a lot going on. Yeah, but THX 1138, set in a dystopian future. I like dystopian futures, 70s style. A lot of it doesn't look very advanced, especially when you see screens and stuff like that. Yeah, in this future, everybody seems to be wearing white overalls, and instead of a name, you have letters and numbers. So THX 1138 was Robert Duvall's name, if you like. And yeah, he lives in this world where he builds robot policemen, because the police force are like sort of robots, and he works building them, which looks quite dangerous because one slip and you can get radioactive poisoning. And in this world, you're not allowed to think for yourself, really. You have to take suppressing drugs that will will stop your thoughts and keep you toeing the line. Yeah, very George Orwellian. There's no such thing as physical breeding, if you like, anymore. It's all done through test tubes. So any physical contact with the opposite sex is banned. So Duval's character, he basically stops taking the drugs, and he lives with this woman. Everybody's got shaven heads. He lives with this woman played by Maggie McComey, and they form a physical relationship, and it gets found out about it, and he gets slung in this like really weird prison. It was like I'm not sure whether it's some sort of desert or big room, but it was just white for as far as you can see. So, along with this other chap and a holograph, he decides to escape, and he's just walking and walking and walking through this whiteness, and until he eventually finds a way out. And then there's car chases and motorbike chases. It turns into a bit of action. Yeah, really good dystopian film that can't believe, as I say, it's taken me so long to get round to, and yeah, definitely one I want to go back to in future. Donald Pleasence was quite a creepy character in it as well. Yeah, good stuff. Very auteur, I thought, for George Lucas, to go on from this to, I won't say popcorn because that's doing like the Star Wars stuff a disservice, but more fantasy, action, adventure, yeah, because this is totally different from anything else I've seen from Lucas. Yeah, good film, enjoyed it. And to round the week off, I went for The Anniversary from 1968, directed by Roy Ward Baker, Betty Davis, Sheila Hancock, Jack Hedley, James Cousins, Christian Roberts, and Elaine Taylor. Now, this is a Hammer film, and I always said that this was my favourite Hammer film, The Nanny with Betty Davis. But, you know what? I think this now takes the crown. I loved this film. I thought it was brilliant. Real dark comedy. This is all about Betty Davis's character. She is the matriarchal figurehead of this family that do construction. There's three sons. There's the eldest son, who is basically a mummy's boy and a transvestite and steals ladies' underwear off clotheslines. You've got the middle child who wants to emigrate to Canada with Sheila Hancock and the 5 children, but he's too scared to tell Betty Davis because she's such a fearsome mother. And you've got the younger son who wants to get engaged to Elaine Taylor's character, but again, he daren't tell his mum. And the family and the girlfriend and the wives and the children, they all meet up for what would have been the 40th wedding anniversary of Betty Davis and her late husband. This seems to be a tradition they do every year. They still meet up for the anniversary and go and have something to eat and have a bit of party. And it's just this Betty Davis ruling this family with a rod of iron. She's such a horrible woman, but you couldn't help but being drawn to her because she's absolutely magnetic. She's always been at her best the whole of her career, Davis, when she's playing characters with an edge, characters that are not very nice, and this is no exception whatsoever because she is absolutely filthy horrible, and the dialogue and the put downs to the rest of the family members, how they not have anything to do with this woman. If this was in a family in real life, you'd just disown them and not have anything to do with them. Yeah, absolutely sparkling comedy that made me laugh and cringe at the same time. Yeah, great stuff. And like I say, I think it's now my favourite Hammer film. Not that it's a Hammer horror. It's definitely not a horror. There's more to Hammer than horror, it seems. Actually, I think they did the On the Bus films, didn't they? So yeah, they comedy as well. Yeah, the anniversary, really, really good. Really glad I discovered it, and yeah, one that I'll be watching again. So that's it for the week, guys. Let me know what you thought of my watches. Do you agree? Am I talking out the back of my head? Let me know down below. Give us a thumbs up if you've liked what I've done here today. They reckon it helps, and who am I to disagree? Maybe think about subscribing. Subs have been going well recently. Keep commenting. Love the comments. Love the conversation. Have a good weekend. Have a good week. Catch you later. Ta-ra.